Good afternoon and welcome to the 2024 Stanley Cup Final in South Florida. Good to have all of you here with us for the Stanley Cup Final. This avail is going to be in three parts. The first two, Marty Walsh, Executive Director of the Players Association, and I will be talking about two very important issues that we're collaborating on. And then when those two segments are done, you'll get some remarks from me. I know you're all waiting with bated breath. And then Bill Daly and I will take questions. So with that, to start things off, on my right is Shane Jacobson, who is the CEO of the V Foundation. And one of the things that the Players Association and the league collaborate on very well is the important initiative Hockey Fights Cancer, which we're celebrating 25 years. We've raised collectively about $36 million for cancer research and treatment. And this year, as I think you all know, we've collaborated with the V Foundation with a new partnership to raise our efforts to an even higher level. It's been a wonderful collaboration, assisted in large part, powered by AstraZeneca, who's a league partner. And this year we raised, in addition to increasing awareness dramatically, another $4 million. And so I know Marty has some comments and Shane does. And so, Marty, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. The NHL-NHLPA agreement with the V Foundation was certainly one of the first early partnerships. Let me try this again. How's that? All right. Yeah, that didn't sound too good coming out either. Thank you. As I was saying a minute ago, the NHL-NHLPA agreement with the V Foundation was one of the first partnerships that I reached as executive director of the NHLPA. And certainly it was an important one for me as a cancer survivor. My staff and the players across the league know how important this program is. We've done great things this past year, and we want to do more even in the future. Special to this year, 25th anniversary campaign, the NHL and the PA has granted $250,000 to 11 life-changing organizations with close ties to our players and alum all across the league. Those include 11 organizations. One of those included, in the 11 organizations, was the Ben Stetler Foundation, where two players are playing tonight in the Stanley Cup Finals. Connor McDavid and Zach Hyman presented $25,000 donation to support this foundation in ongoing efforts to bring proton therapy to Canada. When we started talking about this back probably about almost a year ago now, I think, I did some of this work in my previous life, but I understand the importance of supporting cancer research and making those investments. And as I went around during fall tour and talked to all the players about this, specifically the V Foundation, almost every one of them had a story about a mother, a father, a brother, a sister, a friend, a colleague, or a family member. So it's an honor to be here tonight to announce, to talk about this and to support, to strengthen this relationship. This is going to change lives and save lives as we continue to move forward. So thank you.
Shane?
Well, thank you, Gary. Thank you, Marty. The V Foundation for Cancer Research, we're incredibly proud of this partnership. We're impressed by the team effort that went in to raise more than $4 million to help cancer patients everywhere. Gary, your leadership, Marty, your leadership is incredible. The team's with you and behind this. Our V Foundation team, we're proud to be part of the Hockey Fights Cancer family, part of the National Hockey League family. $2.9 million of the $4 million raised will fund cutting-edge research through the V Foundation in the United States and in Canada. Since Jimmy V gave his famous ESPY speech, right, the don't give up, don't ever give up ESPY speech, we've seen a 33 percentage point improvement in survivorship. And that's what this partnership is all about, funding game-changing research, supporting cancer patients in the community, and saving more lives, the mothers, the fathers, children, aunts, uncles, teammates, coaches, players. We're proud of the fact that this is an opportunity to build awareness and to make a difference together. And I think it is a bold statement to start the finals here with Hockey Fights Cancer, with leaders in the cancer fighting space, the NHL and the NHLPA. Thank you very much. And to the fans and the donors that stepped up, you're part of this team. We thank you. Victory over cancer is the goal, and you're a part of the team.
Thank you, Shane, and thanks for all you do.
Thank you.
See, we collaborate on technology, using mics. The second important issue, in addition to celebrating, as I said, the 25 years of Hockey Fights Cancer, another indication of how well the Players Association and the league can and have worked together, particularly since Marty has taken over, is what we're going to do for our international schedule. You've heard us talk about the Olympics and the World Cup, and as you know, next season we'll take a little break for the Four Nations tournament. A couple of aspects that I'll confirm for you. One is, in addition to the fact that you all know it'll be February 12th through 20th, we're going to be playing the games at the Bell Center in Montreal and at TD Garden in Boston. That is confirmed. And our national rights holders, all of our national rights holders in both countries will be carrying games. And we're delighted at the progress that we're making and the ability to button down the plans. And with even more specifics, my partner and colleague, Mr. Walsh, will tell you about them.
Thanks, Commish. As a lot of you men and women know, how excited the players are and the fans are for this. And just to go a little more into it, I know it's on the board, but I'm going to read it anyway. 4 games at the Bell Center will be highlighted by Sweden versus Finland and the United States versus Canada on February 15th. Certainly the Bell Center is one of the greatest places, one of the greatest hockey venues in the history in Montreal. Is amazing, and it's going to be great to have those games up there. 3 games at the TD Garden were highlighted by President's Day doubleheader on February 17th. We certainly can't wait to see the passionate hockey fans in Boston fill the Garden in February. The players are just absolutely thrilled about this and the opportunity to get international competition again, kind of as a pre-tournament to the Olympics, which is going to be great. The countries, the Americans, the Canadians, the Finnish, the Swede players are all involved in the showcase. The championship game, final game, we played Thursday, February 20th. We can't wait to see. You're going to have 90 NHL players representing their countries while competing in one of the greatest games in the world. Each nation is going to announce the final 6 players on June 28th. The first 6 players, excuse me, on June 28th. I know many around the game are anticipating initial rosters, and I've seen some of your tweets and some of the columns of you speculating who's going to be the first 6 players. So on the 28th, we'll see if you're right or wrong. The remaining roster will be announced later in the year. This is just in my time here at the PA. When I met with Gary, with the first meeting, we talked a lot about international hockey. We talked about the V Foundation. We talked about a lot of things that we've been able to work on collectively over the last year, quite honestly, and seeing it come to fruition and seeing us moving forward is really important. And at the end of the day, I think it's great. I know it's great for the game of hockey, but the fans of the game of hockey are really the benefactors here with all the great excitement that's happening in the NHL right now, along with the partnership of the NHLPA.
Great. We're going to do a little reorganization of the set, and part 3 is coming up in just a minute, so don't go anywhere.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're good. Thank you. Okay, we're back. Once again, welcome to the 2024 Stanley Cup Final, which is the culmination of what has been phenomenal playoffs and the ultimate step for the next couple of weeks in pursuit of the most storied trophy in all of sports. Congratulations to the Western Conference champion Edmonton Oilers, Daryl Cates, Bob Nicholson, Jeff Jackson, Ken Holland, Chris Knobloch, and of course, Captain Connor McDavid and all the other Oiler players who have returned the franchise to the final for the first time since 2006. Congratulations, obviously, as well to the Eastern Conference champion Florida Panthers, Vinny and Teresa Viola, Matt Caldwell, Bill Zito, Paul Maurice, and again, of course, Captain Alexander Barkov, and the Panthers players who have reached the Stanley Cup Final, as we all know, for the second straight year. We think we're in for an exciting matchup. A number of you, several members of the media, have called the 2023-24 season the greatest in history. Your hyperbole, not mine. And others have made similar observations about the 2024 Stanley Cup playoffs. I can say on this, we are in complete agreement. This season has set an all-time record for total attendance in a single season as we approach 23 million fans while playing to 97% of capacity. Our regular season was the most watched throughout North America since 2015-16, and the most watched on cable in the United States in the last 30 years. And through 3 rounds of these playoffs, these are the most watched playoffs in the United States since 1996, and across North America, we're averaging nearly 4 million viewers a game, an increase of 34% year over year. We've seen a number of corporate sponsors, national corporate sponsors, reach an all-time high at 77, and 46 of them have activated during the Stanley Cup playoffs. But it all starts, and you hear me say it repeatedly, with what takes place on the ice. We saw the offense in the game because of the unprecedented skill level of our players continue its renaissance. This will be the 5th time in 6 seasons where scoring was at least 6 goals a game. I believe we're at 6.2 goals a game. We've had 9 100-point scorers, led by 3 who had eclipsed 130 points, and 17 40-goal scorers, led by 4 who eclipsed 50 goals. And our unmatched competitive balance required the 3 final days of the regular season to determine the final playoff spot, 6 of 8 first-round matchups, 11 of 16 playoff seeds, 2 division titles, and 1 conference champion. We began this remarkable season with our first ever games in Australia. We staged a terrific Battle of Alberta at the Heritage Classic outdoors in Edmonton, and we also had an outdoor game in Seattle with our 2 newest franchises. Stars were out in full force in Toronto for All-Star Weekend, and astoundingly, we had 150,000 fans in a 24-hour period for 2 games in New Jersey at MetLife Stadium, again, outdoors, and this put the total number of fans at outdoor games somewhere around 2 million. And the Stanley Cup playoffs, I don't think have ever been better. The unpredictability, the drama are at all-time highs. One point of reference that I think illustrates the point, 89% of games have been what I'll call close games, 1-goal margin or 2 or more based on empty net goals, and that is the highest percentage at this stage of the postseason in NHL history. We believe that our magnificent game should be seen and experienced by the largest and broadest audience possible. So we continue to look for more ways to connect more deeply with our current fans and to develop innovative ways to attract new people to the game. And two examples of that, as I think you all saw this week, we announced that we are partnering with Box to Box, the production company behind Drive to Survive, which is on F1, and Full Swing, which is on golf, for an all-access series for us that will air on Amazon Prime Video in October. Box to Box crews, whether or not you know it, have been following players since All-Star Weekend, and we think this will provide a remarkable and compelling look at our game and, as importantly, if not more importantly, our players. And this is the third consecutive Stanley Cup Final media avail at which I am being assisted by American Sign Language interpreter Bryce Christensen, on my right, from PXP. This year, for the first time in North American pro sports history, the NHL is producing live alternate casts of every game of the Stanley Cup Final dedicated to the deaf community. The alternate broadcasts will be available on ESPN Plus and Sportsnet Plus. A couple of other things. One, and we recently, like in the last hour, confirmed and announced that the cap for next season will be $88 million, which means the minimum will be $85 million.
65.
I'm sorry, 65. Thank you. You know, sometimes I get numbers jumbled. In terms of entertainment, we thank Body Armor, the outdoor musical concert here tonight from the Kid Leroy. On Monday night, DJ Khaled from Miami will be entertaining, and Rogers will be sponsoring entertainment in Edmonton for Game 3, Our Lady Peace, and for Game 4, global icon, and she's been considered the queen of country pop, Shania Twain, and that again is courtesy of Rogers, and we're thankful to Body Armor and Rogers for their participation. So, to sum it up in a few words, I think it's fair to say we're in a good place. We're excited for what is going to unfold over the next couple of weeks, and Bill Daly and I are more than happy to take your questions.
As always, if you have a question, please raise your hand and wait for the mic. Let's start with Stephen Wine from the Associated Press over on the left. There you go, Stephen.
Steve Wino, Associated Press. Gary, you just mentioned the cap at $88 million. I guess it's a little bit higher than the projected estimate.
Yes.
What does that mean about kind of the revenue this year, and how nice is it to see the cap finally take that leap?
It's great to say. I know the general managers and the teams are excited to have more flexibility, and it means that the revenues are as robust as we've been telling you all along.
Pierre, second row on the right.
Gary, any update on where a potential this doesn't work?
Yep.
Process might
So-
at some point here in terms of a timeline, or still
What kind of process?
expansion?
Oh, there's nothing new to update in that regard. We continue to deal with expressions of interest. We're not going to, at least at this point, unveil a formal expansion process, and we are gratified by the fact that at least, half a dozen places continue to express an interest in us.
Back
Want to add
on the
anything to that?
No.
No? Good. Well, I'm now concerned that the 85, 65.
Don't worry, I'll correct you when I need to.
Thank you. I count on that, actually. Yes.
We'll go back to the left.
Yeah, Gary Richard Labbé with La Presse in Montreal. Getting back to the Four Nations right here.
Yes, there you are.
Could you explain the choice between two cities, Boston and then why Montreal?
Go ahead.
Just two iconic cities, and we thought it was important to have some exposure in Canada, and a venue in Canada as well as a venue in the United States. Obviously, we have 32 franchises, so we could have put it anywhere, but those are two that kind of rose to the top, and we worked with both of the clubs. They're both very cooperative, both very excited about hosting, so we're looking forward to being there.
Stay over there, Greg Wyshynski.
Hello.
Hi.
Also on Four Nations, what was the thinking in the format to not have, say, like semifinals or a consolation match?
I think part of it is we're doing this tournament in lieu of the All-Star game. It's still an extended period of time. We didn't want to make it too extended, so we figured pure round robin with a final. That was the thinking.
Front row on the right, Kevin.
Gary and Bill, again with the Four Nations, obviously Czechia is the world champion, and Germany's got a pretty good player playing for the Stanley Cup. Any regrets that you couldn't extend it to 6? Like, I know it was a
Well,
short timeline there.
there are two issues. One is, as Bill just mentioned, how long a break we were prepared to take for a tournament which is in season. And secondly, we wanted to, for this tournament, as we get ready for the Olympics and the World Cup, we wanted this to be all NHL players. And these four countries fit the bill better than any of the others. Yeah.
Back on your left.
I know this is semi-team to team, but where are things right now as a league when you look at kind of the regional sports network setup? Because that's been a pretty wild space right now.
We're in a period of transition, but what's interesting is I can't predict whether or not Diamond, which has the Bally's regionals, will emerge from bankruptcy, but we are certainly aware of all the alternatives, and we've seen some clubs, most notably Vegas and Arizona, now Utah, going over the air and doing some digital streaming. So, we will evolve with the times, and our main focus is making sure the games are going to be available to our fans.
The length of the process has really given the clubs an opportunity to understand what their alternatives are. So that's the good part of this.
Yeah, and to add to that, it's dragged on a whole lot longer than anybody had hoped, and certainly a whole lot longer than we wanted.
Second row on the aisle, Chris.
For either Gary or Bill, now that we've moved beyond the sort of COVID deaths with the cap and we're seeing a big jump, where do you anticipate future years will go? Do you think this will become the norm again?
I predict it will continue to go up. And, obviously with the number of years we had with flat or modest increases was necessary to recapture how much was overpaid and how much the escrow built up during COVID. But I believe we're going to continue to see robust growth in the cap.
Gary, Steve Simmons, Toronto Sun.
All the way in the back on the left.
Yes, I see you. I know. You look familiar.
I didn't see him.
Yeah, there he is. Stand up. No, it's okay.
It's entirely possible that a Russian player will win the Hart Trophy this year. It's entirely possible that a Russian player will win the Conn Smythe Trophy this year. What do you say to Russian players in your league that they're not included in this upcoming tournament?
There's only so much we can do under the existing circumstances as we see them, and certainly whether it's Four Nations or World Cup, people are going to have opinions as to things we could have done differently, but I think it's fair to say that a lot of time and effort with the Players Association making these decisions jointly has led us to what we think is the best place for us to be right now.
Third row on the right.
Commissioner.
Yes.
Tim Reynolds with the AP here in
Yes.
Miami. The ongoing dialogue about cut-resistant materials, is there any update on those discussions?
Bill?
No update other than to say that, obviously the events of this year, opened everybody's eyes and brought a much bigger focus on it. We have upcoming, we have protective equipment meetings that we do jointly with the Players Association, and cut-resistant materials has been on our agenda for a long time. It's something the Players Association has been helpful in advocating for with the players. What becomes mandatory and what doesn't is a different issue, and that's what we'll continue to work on and talk through.
Questions? Hands up. Oh, okay. Let's go to Josh in front.
just since Marty's done, I'm just wondering how the relationship between the league and the Players Association has changed.
Well, I'm not sure that I want to categorize what it was, but I'll tell you what it is, and it's very open, candid, good dialogue. I think we have a good relationship that may be the best it's been in the history of labor relations between the NHL and the NHL Players Association. We're collaborating on lots of important initiatives, and I think that bodes well for the future growth of the game and of the league.
Stay here, George.
Yeah, right down here, George Richards, Florida Hockey Now. You guys have been here now for an All-Star game and 2 Stanley Cup Finals here in South Florida. The Panthers have said they've spoken with the Miami Marlins about a possibility of that ballpark hosting something. Have you guys talked to them? Is it ruled out? What are your thoughts on Marlins Park?
I haven't been there, but I understand it's very nice. And it also has a roof and is air conditioned. I'm not going to break any news today, but we are mindful of the fact that at some point it would be good for the Panthers to be in an outdoor game. And so we continue to explore options. You know, we did something a little different this past year, as I indicated, by doing 2 games in 24 hours in the same venue. We can only speculate what the future might hold in that regard.
Front row on your right.
Colby Guide, Palm Beach Post.
Yes.
You guys have a New Jersey deal coming up with Fanatics. I just wanted to, with everything that's going to be announced soon, I mean, what's the optimism with that deal and what comes with it?
Well, Fanatics has been a great partner of ours for maybe going on 2 decades. The actual game-worn jerseys are going to be manufactured by the same place that manufactured them for Adidas. They're the best in the world at it. And our teams and players on our teams have all had an opportunity to sample what the jerseys are and how they're coming out, and everybody has been more than pleased.
For Gary Erbil, I was curious if the league has counseled or advised the teams that have a player in the London case charged from the World Junior 2018 about what to do with their qualifying rights ahead of June 30th.
So I guess I'll answer that. I've gotten a couple inquiries from clubs. As of right now, the status quo would be that whatever rights the CBA set forth for clubs and players will adhere. We've talked generally with the Players Association about the possibility of revisiting that on some basis, but have no commitment with regard to that. So it's quite possible that clubs will have the decision of qualifying or not as of the end of this month.
Oh, it's up to the clubs.
Yeah.
Roy Bellamy, Miller Lite Media. Given everything that happened with the Pride jerseys last year, what is the league's status on inclusion, whether it be race, sexual preference, or gender? Is any progress being made?
Well, we think so. We've made tremendous strides and efforts this year. All 32 of our clubs had a Pride night, and I think that our record is clear in terms of our desire to be welcoming and inclusive, no matter who you are, no matter what you believe, and no matter what your orientation is.
Gary, one more. Given the profitability of the NHL and how big the sport's becoming, it's not surprising sometimes to read stories that other guys want to start their own leagues. There's a Max Chambers character that I think you've heard of trying to start something called Major League Hockey. I just wonder if you could weigh in on that or just the idea that other people might want to start something similar.
To the extent there's ongoing interest in hockey, it's flattering and it's good for the game. We don't exactly know who Max Chambers is or what he has planned or what his resources are, but you know, this is the NHL, the best hockey league in the world, and we intend to continue to uphold that lofty status.
All the way in the back, Mark Spector.
Gary.
Yes, Mark.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Very
good
well.
to see you.
And you. Your consensus best player in your league, Connor McDavid, spends his whole season out west on Western time zones, and the first round of the playoffs playing 10, 15, and 10:45 starts in your league. You're putting your best player out there very late at night for the Eastern time zone. Would you do a better job at that? Do you think that the league has done a good enough job marketing Connor McDavid to Eastern time zone?
Your question presumes that we should be doing a better job than we're doing, and we always look for the most efficient, creative, and most effective ways to schedule. But there are realities to where our teams are located, the number of broadcasters nationally that we have in 2 countries, and we also are mindful of fans who need to go to work, and when we can impose upon them to put on games in their marketplace. So long-winded answer, shortened, is we do the best we can to schedule under the circumstances as we find them.
Ryan Smith's group now has season tickets on sale and everything. I'm wondering what your first impressions have been of the team in Utah and the interest there, and what's expected there with some obstructed view seats and maybe some other challenges they have to overcome.
Well, the obstructed view seats are a short-term issue which they're going to correct over the next couple of off seasons. The initial ticket sales, which I think is 24 hours old, have been, to say the least, extraordinarily robust, and we're excited about everything that Ryan and his organization are doing to welcome the players and welcome NHL hockey and to introduce it into Utah. I think things are going even better than we could have hoped based on the short time frame that they've had to work with, because they've literally, since the announcement, which hasn't been that long ago, and as you all know, this didn't come about over a long period of time, they're literally drinking from a fire hose, and they're doing it unbelievably well.
Gary, this isn't scientific, but the feedback I get from fans is that they want more rivalries in the division, and they're not worried about making sure they get to see Connor McDavid or whoever the top star in the league is once a year. And the second part of that is this schedule is very balanced in the regular season for a division-centric playoff. Do you consider that fair? Should the playoffs reflect the schedule more?
You want to win the Stanley Cup, you got to go through the best teams. As it relates to your anecdotal information, it's a little at odds with this fan surveying that we do on a regular basis. And frankly, I think if you told the fans, for example, in Toronto or Montreal or New York, that they're not going to get to see the Stanley Cup champion if it happens to be a Western team, or they're not going to get to see Connor McDavid, they wouldn't be happy with that. The only way to satisfy everything that you're suggesting would be to increase dramatically the number of games we play in the regular season, and nobody's advocating that right now. But we do the best we can with the number of teams we have and the number of games we have, and overwhelmingly our fans tell us they want to see every team in their building at least once.
It's also inconsistent with what our clubs tell us with respect to teams in their buildings.
Yeah. And buildings that they get to go to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There does seem to be a lot of support, actually, from some clubs I've spoken to go back to 1-8, 2-8 conference playoffs, but that's actually not my question.
Good. We have, and it's not my answer, but we happen not to agree.
1-8, 2-8?
By the way,
1 versus 8, 2-7,
by
sorry.
the way,
Yeah.
tell me what the problem is with the playoffs that we've just experienced. We don't have to have that
Well,
debate.
we'll have that
your
discussion on the
question.
side. The question
Okay.
that is for Bill is on the LTIR discussion. I know that you had asked the GMs on the executive committee in March to sort of solicit the group and give you the feedback at some point. I'm wondering where that's at.
Yeah, I've gotten some feedback. I haven't gotten all the feedback. Again, I think the results came back what I kind of anticipated they might. I think majority of the people I've heard from would suggest in a perfect world we should try to address it in some way differently than we're addressing it. None of them thought it was a major competitive issue in the short term. And it's something ultimately we're going to have to negotiate with Players Association. So whether that can happen with 2 years left on a collective bargaining agreement, I'm not making any promises. Whether it's going to be something we address in a broader collective bargaining negotiation, quite possibly.
So right now, Gary, with the NBA finals going on and the NBA playoffs, we see teams wear 3 to 4 different jerseys and looks. And I know there's logistical differences with hockey, but I'm curious from a league perspective, is that something you would ever consider from a marketing perspective? Because these teams are wearing the same jersey for all 20 games in the regular season, they can wear the alternate. Is that something you'd ever consider for the playoffs too?
Well, we have home jerseys, we have away jerseys, we have teams with third jerseys, and I think when you're dealing with our sweater, you're dealing with the best jersey in sports, and And when you look at our arenas and our fans wearing them, I don't think that's an issue, and I like authenticity rather than pure marketing.
But like from other, like, would you ever give the team the option too? Like some teams might want to use one for
Teams can have the option of wearing what they want to wear.
but they can only use 2 for the playoffs, right? Am I right on that, or am I
Yeah.
wrong?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
That's okay.
Question for Gary or Bill. What's the status of Stan Bowman and Joel Quenneville regarding working in the National Hockey League?
They currently they're not eligible. They have both reached out seeking an opportunity to come back, and that's something that I have to consider.
The schedule this year, I mean, you go straight really from the Stanley Cup potentially right into the draft, right into free agency. That seems to be the new norm after the COVID has sort of switched the schedule. Is there any chance you could end the Stanley Cup a little bit sooner and give teams more time, or are you happy with sort of a later start to the season now?
Well, you've got to figure out where the yin and the yang is. To do that, you have to start earlier. And most teams don't want to start in September, which is understandable. You have baseball going into their playoffs. It's football season. There's a lot going on. And so, you know, we could start earlier and end earlier. We could do what we're doing now. But when you see what our attendance is and our ratings are, it's not a problem. And it's the same for every club, and they adjust.
A lot of conflicting imperatives that we have to deal with on a lot of different issues. The schedule is clearly one of them.
Commissioner Tim Reynolds again with the AP. The NBA, as I know you know, is about to wrap up an 11-year series of media rights deals. How much does one league watch another in terms of just where the market is being set? I know it's not always apples to apples, obviously, but the numbers, I'm sure David never thought it was possible. I'm sure Adam never thought it was possible. What can that mean for hockey, for NBA to draw that kind of number?
What it tells you is the marketplace for sports content is as robust as it's ever been, despite predictions over the years of doom and gloom. And I find the prospects going forward very exciting for us as well, because I think as one of the 4 major sports, we have extraordinary valuable content, and I'm glad the marketplace is as vibrant as it is.
I don't see any more hands.
No more hands? On that note, thank you all for being here, and let's have a great Stanley Cup final. We're excited and hope you are.